Good day, and it is April of 2017. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is April. Now, why did I not do an April Fool's video? Simply because I ran out of time. But next year, we will have an actual April Fool's video. Now, 1917 was 100 years ago. I recently just finished reading The First World War by John Keegan, a very good book to read if you want to learn about the First World War. He basically posits that while the commanders weren't very good in World War I, there wasn't much for them to do better. The idea was it predated the concept of the tank, and when they finally started getting it, they didn't really have that good of armored doctrine at the time. And so the thing is, the reason why there were these massive casualties is there was no way to protect the infantry. They were going out there, and initially in the war they didn't even have steel helmets, going out there just with tunics. And so those shells would blow up, and they'd all die. And there wasn't really much they could do about that at the time, which is a fairly interesting concept, something I hadn't really thought of. Because we just look at the World War I commanders, how stupid could they be? And you never really think that, well, maybe they were constrained by their own technology. They had the killing power, but they didn't have a lot of the logistic power that they would need. One thing that the book mentions is there was no way to really communicate with the troops on the ground from the command and control centers. They had telephone lines, but after the artillery barrage, they'd all be destroyed. And so what happened is, all that command and control would break down, and then they'd all die. Another big issue they had is there was no portable radios at that time. I think they had like some sort of, well, it was a prototype, I believe, of a man-portable radio that took like 12 men to carry. Yeah, portable indeed. So yeah, it's an interesting book to read. If you want to study more about World War I and you don't want to read a book, then you're out of luck. But if you want to study about World War I do recommend checking out The Great War. It's a YouTube channel. It's covering, I think, week by week, World War I. A very, very cool show. And it does look like the guy who runs it really doesn't like Konrad von Hotzendorf. I really want to read a biography on that guy. He sounds like either A, he's really stupid, or B, he was really stupid. Although, once again, he was a product of his time. And it does look, I never had heard of him before seeing him on that show, actually. I never heard of Konrad. And so I'm kind of curious as to his personality. I really do need to read some biographies on Ludendorff and von Hindenburg as well. For those who don't know, in World War I, the Kaiser, Wilhelm, didn't really control Germany. It was controlled by its military, then later on in the war, it was basically de facto controlled by Ludendorff and von Hindenburg. Both are fairly interesting characters from what little I've read, but I'd like to read a lot more. Really, World War I, when you think about it, 100 years ago, think about all the stuff that's changed over the past century, and how much has stayed the same, really. That's the crazy part. Politically, not much has changed. People still want to dominate other people. That's the way it goes. One thing that is interesting, though, when you really think about it, 100 years ago, the Austro-Hungarian Empire existed. And I don't think anyone still alive actually lived under that particular empire. That's a pretty crazy concept when you think about it. I read that in another book, but I can't remember which book it is now. But basically talking about how pretty much there's no one left alive who actually lived under that empire. And it's just kind of crazy to think that country's been gone for so long. I think it collapsed in 1918, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what month in 1918. But it's interesting to think that country is long since gone, and the people who lived under it are all dead. It's really kind of a crazy thing to think about as well. There are no more World War I veterans and haven't been for many years. It just is really kind of crazy when you think about that gulf of time. Or if you watch, there's some clips on YouTube actually of films taken in Berlin immediately after World War II. And when you think about it, most of those people are either A, dead, or B, really, really, really old. It just kind of puts it all in perspective. Right now, we think our lifetimes are the most important, but what are people going to say 100 years from now about the things that are going on now? What's it going to look like 100 years from now? What are they going to think about us and all the things that we've done? And for me, it's just it really is crazy to think about that. Because when you think about just everywhere in the world, how much has changed over 100 years. And, they all lived their lives. They believed their time period was the most important, and it really was. And now they're long dead, and everything that they lived through is gone into history. So when you think about it, what are people going to make of these protests? What are people going to make of the pink hats? What are they going to think about that? Because obviously if you wanted the pink hats, you're going to think they thought we were heroes. No, you don't know that at all. But it's just interesting to think. It's interesting to think. I mean, a lot of us on YouTube are very young. I'm only 28. But at some point, I'm going to be 48, and then 58, then 68, then 78, then 88, then 98, and then, if I'm lucky, 108. And everything that I will have known will have passed into the mists of history. Just kind of, it's something you should give some thought to now and again. Now, for April, we're going to be doing Dark Shooter Month. Moving on from that bit of self-reflection, we're going to move on to what we're actually here for. And so this month, we're going to be reviewing some Dark Shooters. We're going to be reviewing Return to Castle Wolfenstein. We're going to be reviewing Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil. We're going to be reviewing Quake 4. And last but not least, I almost said Quay. Yeah, Quay. Quay, man. Yo, Quay. Anyway, Prey. There we are. On the Xbox 360. I had a fan send that to me probably over a year ago now. It's not that I haven't had a chance to get to it, it's just that I haven't wanted to get to it because I wanted to really do it justice. And I think now I will be able to do so. Also this month we might see some more gun reviews, I'm not sure. I finally found a really cool range that's indoor, but I haven't been there yet, so I don't know if it's actually good or not. At least says at this recording. If it is good, and it's a really good, it's supposed to be an indoor 100-yard rifle range. And if it's as good as I hope it is, then we'll finally be able to get the Lee Enfield done. We're going to re-review the Mosin Nagant, and we're going to because I've actually had some more rifle practice since then, so I'm hoping I might do a little bit better at 100 yards. But I also want to take another look at the Henry and see if I can shoot that accurately at 100 yards as well. We'll just have to see. So we will see what this month brings in terms of that. The next month I already have planned as well. May is VE Day, which is May the 8th. Where Victory in Europe Day took place, so I'm going to have that be World War II month. Now, everybody's doing World War I stuff, and I'm not sure what I could really add to that, but might as well do World War II month. Now, depending on the time I have, I really want to get 7 reviews done. 4 game reviews, 2 movie reviews, and a book review. I don't know if I'll be able to do all that, but I'm definitely going to try. The games will be Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty World at War, Brothers in Arms, Road to Hill 30, I think that's the first Brothers in Arms game, I can't remember exactly, and Medal of Honor on the PlayStation 1. Now, I didn't play Medal of Honor on the PlayStation 1 back in the day. I didn't even know there was one until the internet. The first Medal of Honor I thought was the Medal of Honor Allied Assault, which apparently it isn't. But those are the 4 games I want to review. Then I want to review 2 movies. The ones I enjoy the most fondly. There we go. I can't say they're my favorite because, well, it's depicting the largest conflict in human history where millions of people died. So there's that. That's the thing. If you ever, that's actually what the book review's going to cover. Where basically I'm going to say, you should never call World War II your favorite war because millions of people died in that. That's not good. But the 2 movies are Battle of Britain from 1969 and The Longest Day from 1964. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Those are the 2 ones that I watched the most when I was first studying about World War II. And they're both very well-made movies. They are more or less, they're about as historically accurate as you're going to get out of a movie. I feel that the earlier World War II movies are a bit more historically accurate than many of the later ones. Saving Private Ryan is a very popular World War II movie. The only problem with Saving Private Ryan is it doesn't show any of the Allied forces, and it basically just reduces the Germans to villains. Longest Day, it actually shows things from multiple different perspectives. It actually shows that the British were there and the Germans are actually humanized. Whatever next, right? Battle of Britain also does the same thing, and it actually shows the Polish pilots that fought, which is always very cool to see that. Basically, when a lot of those war movies were produced was when you had a lot of the World War II veterans still being fairly young, and they would have known if it was historically inaccurate, whereas these days, many of them have sadly passed on. But then again, the ones that have lived are now really, really old, because when you think about this, they would have had to have been, at least in their teens to have fought in World War II. And my grandfather was born in 1940, meaning that now he's in his late 70s. That's just being born, and he didn't join the infantry, that's for sure. So yeah, it's that's kind of interesting to think that people who fought in World War II are kind of gone now as well. But that's the passage of time. The book I want to review is The Second World War by John Keegan. There's another World War II book I read just recently, also called The Second World War by Anthony Beevor. That was also a pretty good one. I didn't like it quite as much as John Keegan's work, but it was still pretty good nonetheless. But I will be talking about John Keegan's Second World War mainly because it puts a more human perspective on the war, meaning it is an extremely depressing book to read about. It is very, very depressing, because the thing is, when you look at World War II, we often look at it kind of like a War Thunder game. You know, they got the tanks, they got the planes, but we forget just the millions upon millions of people that were killed in that. And that really kind of is a buzzkill, but that's what happened. That's what happens in war. People die, and it's horrible. Let's see, anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Well, be sure to support on Patreon so I can continue making awesome reviews of books, games, guns, and all the rest. But I think that's pretty much it. Just keep in mind, all life is transitory, and we need to enjoy what we have. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good... What can I wish you good? Crackdown. And good Red Dead Redemption. Or whatever makes you happy.